Welcome back. I'm Jen Potter, and I am joined with Dara Forleo. She is the owner of the Whole Pet Grooming Academy, which is an academy that has been created to give formal education to groomers out there within our country. And what she is talking about, and there are so many things within our country with dog grooming that need to be addressed that aren't being addressed. And I got a little worked up for a split second because we were talking about formal education, and I was already starting to think in my head, like as I was going through the title of all of the things that we're doing, of why formal education is so important. So thank you, Dara, for being back here and talking about this. Right? It was funny, like during the break, like both of us are getting worked up, and I love
Yeah.
it because what I want to say, and I didn't say this during the break because it made me think of it, and I thought it was funny, and maybe you won't, but I definitely thought it was. But we talk about formal education, and anybody can get a certificate. Like you said, you can go to a trade show and you can get a certificate.
Yeah.
Just like I can go online and I can I can marry somebody. I
Yeah.
can I can become a person that can marry someone within 3 minutes, right?
Yep. You
And
can get
so,
ordained and it gives
right,
you a
I
nice
can
little
be ordained in 3 minutes.
yeah.
And so if I can be ordained in 3 minutes and I have no idea what I'm doing, why are we letting people who actually are handling our animals, something that is so precious to us, and
Mhm.
just saying, good luck? That's pretty much like what we're saying.
That's
We're
what we
we're
do.
putting right.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, a few segments before, there's a lot of dangers that come with that. If we're just going, oh, well, this is $50 cheaper, I'm going to go with this because this is more affordable. I would probably say, in my non-professional opinion, if you can't afford it, it's probably better just not to do it. Brush them yourself, invest in a brush if you can't afford to do it, save up your cash, and when
Yeah.
you can afford to do it, then do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't afford to have a pet, you probably shouldn't have one to begin with. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole
But
other conversation. But
but
also, I mean, there are other ways. You don't have to have a pet that's needs grooming every 4 weeks.
right.
So you can have a smooth coated dog. I personally own 3 Chihuahua mixes,
Oh,
and they're under 8 pounds, so I can stick them in the sink.
that is so awesome. It's so funny, and I'm totally gonna digress when I say this. We talked about this. I have a doodle. She weighs about 90 pounds, and on her hind legs, she's over 6 feet. She's this ginormous dog. But more recently, I have had this passion to own a small puppy or dog more than anything in the world. And I think that's just because I love my dog so much, but I can't take her everywhere with me because she's so big. And so there's so many options for different types of animals. And, I knew when I got a doodle, that was going to come with a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit more about this too. And because you talked about, and, things, making the right choices for, the right groomer, not knowing where you're taking them, and even thinking that it could be a really good decision to go to that particular groomer. I think knowing more about our animals, right? Like you said, I
Yeah.
don't, I thought about that, but that was because it was COVID and I didn't have anything else to do. So I researched
So there
animals.
was
Um,
yeah.
so so that's how I got my dog, because I
Yeah.
waited till a year. Like I gave myself a full year out because I'm like, I'm not gonna make a rash decision like everybody else did during COVID. I'm gonna make a decision and I'm gonna learn a little bit about them, knowing
Mhm.
that they have to be groomed, knowing that they were a little bit more work than the regular dog. And, but I didn't do my due diligence when thinking about the grooming part. And I want to continue to educate our listeners on why that's so important, because with the groomers that are being created through your certification programs, you're changing the way that this is happening, right? You're slowly doing that trickle effect so they
Yeah.
can get out to more and more people. And I love that. And when it comes to formal education, you mentioned the different certification programs, but there was a one really cool one that you mentioned. And does anybody else have this other program that we were talking about?
There are other programs out there, but nothing quite like what we have. It is different. It makes I'll say it makes people step back and go, what are they doing over there? So we do have a animal communication program, and it is all about. We have a diploma. It is a 9-month program on becoming a professional animal communicator. Again, people hone into you just never know. And if that's your calling, that's your calling. Who am I to say you can or can't talk to animals? I want to know, right? I mean, I can't do it. It's not in me, but I have a good friend that can and does and helps people and their pets. And it is an amazing program. We have vets from all over the world that have graduated from our program.
That's amazing.
And vets are using it in their practices because it's giving animals they're not doing it as a professional, but to make that transition. I mean, people are more aware and more conscious of these practices nowadays, and whether you believe it or not, I mean, that's on you, but or for you or not for you, but for us it is. And we talk about it with communicating with the animal on our tables, and it's about understanding and being compassionate to them and seeing and being able to be aware of the bigger picture. Because I think people in our industry, and I guess this really does go into why formal education matters, because it is about that end result. But how do you get to that end result, and what's going on internally with that animal? Do you have to wrangle them down on the table? Are you holding them down? Are you scruffing them? Do you have to get their nails done dremeling by holding and pulling and they're jerking away? When's enough? When do you call it? That's it. I can't do more. And if you're not aware of that animal's feelings, why are you in it?
Right.
Why are you doing this? And so Latifa teaches not just our animal communication program, but she also teaches self-awareness of your energy and what's going on so that you can internalize what's going on and be aware of the signs that animal is giving off. It might not be aggression or heavy. You might not even realize that they're stressed or nervous, because not everybody shows things in the same way. So you have to be able to identify it yourself. Formal education is very difficult to get because it's not in our industry. There is not. You can go to other grooming schools and learn how to groom, but beyond that, you don't go to college to learn how to groom a dog. You don't go and get your diploma in these programs. You can take certificate classes, you can take seminars and professional development, but there's not a lot of formal education out there. So when you group of people together like we did, and groomers from all, I mean, we have educators in Kentucky, Washington, like we have educators from all over that teach their specialty. And we teach on product knowledge. We teach on animal communication. We teach on therapeutics, on behavior, on signs. And we are the whole pet, because we take the whole pet into consideration, but we also teach about creating that environment for the owners and introducing them and bringing them into the process as well, because it's not just about that animal. If you're nervous and worried about going into a salon, then don't go. That's the best thing I can say, is don't go. If your hackles are up, if you're feeling something, then you need to turn around and walk back out, because you walking in and not being comfortable and ready and committed to let your dog go into somebody's arms, would you let your child?
No.
If
absolutely not.
And you were dropping your child off at a new school and there's something wrong. You gotta know how to listen to your sixth sense.
Right. But that brings all this stuff into full circle, right? Like, listening to yourself, going to the groomer beforehand to check to make sure it's a good fit, right? Not just making an appointment blindly and showing up, because once you've already committed, it's hard to, most people won't be like, well, I changed my mind. I would change my mind, but I know that there are a lot of people that won't, right? Because
it's like that guilt doing that. Yeah.
Right. because you're like, now you feel bad and oh my
Yep,
goodness, what are they going to think? And like, that's so you're already going against yourself at that point. You make
yep,
no commitment when you go and test it out, right? When you go say, hey, I just want to meet you. I just want to see your facility. And if someone has a
yep,
problem with that, that's a red flag in my
yep,
in my book. When it comes to business, if someone wants to meet my staff or anything like that, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Why not?
yeah.
But that
Well,
there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say another way to, I look at Google reviews or on reviews, and I'd rather see a company that has some negative reviews and a mix in there than all 5-star, because nobody's got all 5-star. Sorry.
No,
That's
no,
just not the
and
reality
but
of the
that's
world.
that's how businesses become better. Because if they have a
Right.
negative thing and then they have 5 other really good ones after that, then you're like, "All right, it was just a one-time experience." Because we have
That,
people that work for us.
but I also look at how the owner responds to the
Mm,
negative reviews. Because if there is a long blah, 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 I don't want to know what the problem was. I want to know, are
how it
you
was fixed.
trying to fix it? What's your customer service like? Because
Absolutely,
if that customer service is 19 paragraphs long on a 1-star review because they're upset they got a 1-star review, it's not a place to go to.
I agree with you.
You
I
don't want to go to that place because already what's going on is absolute chaos in that shop.
right?
It's, I'm sorry, we tried to fix this. This is what we did. It didn't work out. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
And you
Yeah.
know what? And that's excellent advice for any business
Any
review.
business. Yep.
Any business review, because I have never taken a negative feedback as like I don't go, "Oh,
Personal.
well, that's on them." No,
Mhm.
it's what can I do better to make my business better?
Yep.
I tell people all the time, "Leave
Yeah.
us a review, positive or negative. I don't care what it is. I wanna know what I
Yep.
can do better to make things better for you and
Yeah.
for everybody after you." And so I love feedback. I love positive and negative feedback. I think
Yeah.
it's what makes a
Absolutely.
business because we're not perfect,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
if you going into this industry, especially like you said, it's not licensed. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot for people to learn. And maybe someone who is just starting out and may not have the right type of, education behind them, maybe that type of feedback is going to help draw them to you. Say,
Right.
please teach me. What can I do better to make my business better? What are things that I can do to make this really grow? And
Mhm.
and I truly love that. And the biggest thing that I got out of the segment talking about animal communication was empathy. The word empathy came to me over and over
Over
and
and over.
over.
Yep.
And you brought that up in different parts. How would you feel if you dropped your child off at school?
Yeah.
Feeling empathetic, feeling that energy. All of that stuff
Yeah.
exists, whether we're woo woo or not, right? I know
Right.
I am woo woo. We talked about it on the break,
Yeah.
but you don't have to be woo woo to understand empathy and want to be able to understand how to communicate with an animal. They can't speak for themselves. It's
Right.
like a baby, right? We have to understand how to nurture them. So I love the fact that you encompass all of that within everything that you're
Yeah.
doing. We're going to cut to our next break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about why, if we're making the smartest choices. So we will be right back.